Kodiak Bear versus Polar Bear. Who would win this fight? Have you ever wondered what would happen if two of the most colossal land predators on Earth went paw-to-paw in a battle for the ages? Picture this: one bear, the snow-white ghost of the Arctic, built for stealthy seal hunts and icy swims. The other, a brown-furred powerhouse from the Alaskan wild, thick as a tank and strong enough to flip a car if it felt like it. Yep, we're talking about the polar bear and the Kodiak Bear. Now, before you grab popcorn and imagine a WWE-style bear brawl, let me just say, this fight would never happen in the wild. These two titans live thousands of miles apart and couldn't be more different in lifestyle, attitude, and fighting style. It's like asking who would win in a boxing match, Mike Tyson in his prime or an Olympic swimmer. Totally different leagues, right? But hey, as a wildlife expert and, let's be honest, a big fan of nature's showdowns, I couldn't resist diving into the fascinating science of who these bears are, how they live, and what might go down if they ever met face to face. Stick around, because the outcome may surprise you, and along the way, you'll learn some wild facts that'll make you the smartest person at your next barbecue. Let's break it down: size, strength, diet, territory, behavior, and yes, who'd likely walk away the champ if things got hairy. Size and description. Let's talk about raw bear muscle. First up, the Kodiak Bear, a living bulldozer wrapped in fur. This beast can stand up to 10 feet tall and weigh anywhere between 800 to 1,400 pounds. That's basically the weight of a Harley Davidson, and it hits about as hard too. With claws stretching 4 to 5 inches long, Kodiak bears don't just swat, they shred. Imagine getting high-fived by a forklift. That's what a Kodiak punch feels like. Now meet its icy rival, the polar bear. These Arctic giants are just as massive, sometimes even bigger. The largest one ever recorded tipped the scales at a jaw-dropping 2,209 pounds. That's the size of a small car wearing a fur coat. Their claws are sharp and curved like meat hooks, designed for gripping slippery seals on treacherous ice, not so much for rough housing on rocky ground. In my opinion, if you dropped both of these titans into a wrestling ring, the Kodiak would have the edge in close combat. It's built like a linebacker and optimized for ground and pound action. The polar bear is more like a sniper, precise, powerful, but out of its element on dry land. So while both are heavyweight champions in their own right, the Kodiak is definitely packing the kind of brute strength you don't want to mess with if you're anywhere near solid ground. Habitat. Let's talk real estate, bear style. The Kodiak Bear has one exclusive address: the Kodiak Archipelago in Alaska. Think of it as the bear version of a luxury island retreat. These bears roam through misty forests, rugged mountains, and rocky coastlines with ocean views that would make any real estate agent jealous. It's the ultimate bear buffet: 2 salmon streams, berry patches, and plenty of space to flex those muscles. If I were a bear, this is where I'd want to retire. Meanwhile, the polar bear lives way up north in the frozen wilderness of the Arctic. We're talking Canada, Russia, Greenland, parts of Norway, basically anywhere Santa might vacation. These bears are true ice nomads, roaming the sea ice in search of seals. Their world is cold, vast, and constantly shifting, kind of like trying to hunt dinner while skating on a moving treadmill. Personally, I admire the Kodiak for choosing a life that's scenic and stable, but I've got respect for the polar bear too. Living on floating ice takes guts, and these bears make it work with style. It's beach bear versus ice bear, and each has carved out a kingdom in two of the planet's wildest frontiers. What's on the menu? Let's talk bear cuisine. Let's start with the Kodiak Bear, nature's ultimate foodie. This big fella doesn't follow any fancy diet plan. He's an opportunistic eater with a wide-open palate. One moment he's feasting on fresh salmon straight out of the stream like it's sushi night, the next he's grazing on berries like a health-conscious hiker. And if he stumbles across a carcass, you better believe that's going on the plate too. Seaweed, plants, shellfish, you name it, Kodiak's probably tasted it. I like to think of him as the everything but the kitchen sink kind of diner. If Whole Foods opened a store in the Alaskan wilderness, Kodiak bears would be the VIP customers. Now, the polar bear is a different kind of diner. He's all about the meat. And not just any meat, he's a blubber connoisseur. Seal fat is the creme de la creme of the Arctic. It's rich, high-calorie, and exactly what he needs to survive those long, cold stretches on the sea ice. In fact, when hunting is good, polar bears will only eat the fat and leave the rest behind. It's like ordering a burger and tossing the bun, the patty, and the lettuce, just going straight for the cheese and bacon. But when things get rough, and seals are nowhere to be found, polar bears turn into survival chefs. Eggs, birds, fish, reindeer, and yes, even garbage have all made guest appearances on the polar bear menu. Desperate times, desperate meals. In my opinion, Kodiak bears are like resourceful campers who will cook up whatever they can forage, while polar bears are more like elite hunters who prefer a strict meat diet but will dumpster dive if they have to. Either way, these giants are built to fuel up and thrive in some of the toughest places on Earth. Bear personalities, lone wolves in fuzzy coats. When it comes to social lives, both the Kodiak bear and the polar bear are about as solitary as it gets. They're not joining any forest block parties or Arctic mixers. These bears like their space. Outside of raising cubs or showing up at the same salmon buffet, they prefer to fly solo. Kodiak bears have the "don't bother me, I'm busy being huge" attitude. They're confident, powerful, and don't need company to feel important. Honestly, I kind of admire that. They might share a riverbank with other bears during salmon season, but make no mistake, they're not there to make friends. Now, here's the twist. You might think polar bears, living in the cold and harsh Arctic, would be even more aggressive, but surprisingly, they can show a soft side. There have been actual cases in northern Canada where polar bears have wandered into sled dog camps, and instead of turning it into a horror movie, they just hung out. Some even played gently with the dogs, like giant white teddy bears. I've seen the footage, and it's wild. It's like watching a grizzly-sized ballerina tiptoe through a dog park. Of course, both species are wild animals and unpredictable, but if I had to describe them in human terms, Kodiaks are the beefy gym guy who doesn't talk much but means business, and polar bears are the mysterious neighbor who might ignore you or might surprise you with an act of unexpected kindness. In the wild, being a loner isn't weird, it's survival. And for these two apex predators, being alone just means more room to roam and more food to claim. Battle of the Beasts, Kodiak versus polar bear. Alright, let's get to the showdown everybody's been waiting for. Two of the largest land predators on Earth, face to face. It's the heavyweight title match of the animal kingdom. Who takes the crown, Mr. Kodiak or the mighty polar bear? Now, I know what you're thinking. Polar bears are absolutely massive and live in one of the harshest environments on the planet. But here's the wild truth. If these two titans met on land, the polar bear would most likely turn tail and walk away. That's right, in this matchup, size isn't everything. It's about strength, endurance, and who's built for the arena. The Kodiak bear is like a walking tank. Its front limbs are ridiculously muscular, built for powerlifting fallen trees and delivering knockout punches. And those claws, think of them as nature's machetes, thicker, longer, and deadlier than the polar bear's. Sure, the polar bear might look like a beast in a fur coat, but that coat is made for staying warm on sea ice, not for marathon battles on land. Their thick fat layer, a blessing in the Arctic, becomes a curse when things heat up. They overheat fast and struggle with the kind of fast-paced, full-body brawl the Kodiak excels at. To put it in human terms, if this were a wrestling match, the Kodiak would be the brute force champion with cardio to spare, while the polar bear would tap out before the first round ends, not because it's weak, but because the fight just isn't its style. Oh, and fun fact, polar bears tend to avoid even mid-sized grizzlies when ranges overlap. Now imagine facing a Kodiak, which is basically a grizzly on steroids. That's not a fair fight, that's a survival lesson. So if we're betting on a land-based clash, my money's on the Kodiak every time. The polar bear knows better than to pick a fight it can't win. Final verdict, the Land King has a name. When it comes down to a brawl on solid ground, the Kodiak bear reigns supreme. No contest, this beast isn't just big, it's built like a freight train with fur. Stronger upper body, tougher claws, and endurance that would put a marathon runner to shame. It's the kind of animal that doesn't just survive the wilderness, it owns it. Meanwhile, our Arctic friend, the polar bear, may be the undisputed king of the sea ice, but on land, it's out of its element. With all that blubber and thick fur, it overheats quicker than a snowman in Florida. And when faced with the Kodiak's brute force, the polar bear knows the smartest move is to walk away and live to fish another day. If this were a nature documentary and I had to call it like a sports announcer, I'd say, Kodiak takes the win by unanimous decision, and the polar bear gracefully exits the ring with its dignity intact. Are these bears dangerous to humans? You bet they are. Both Kodiak and polar bears are absolute powerhouses, and that means they can be seriously dangerous if you cross their path the wrong way. Kodiak bears, with their massive size and strength, can easily overpower a person, and they're known to be protective, especially when it comes to their young or food. Imagine facing a 1,400-pound mountain of muscle with razor-sharp claws. That's not a bear hug you want. Polar bears might look all fluffy and cute from a distance, but don't be fooled. These Arctic giants are fierce predators perfectly adapted to hunting seals on the ice, and when food is scarce, they can become bold and curious around humans, sometimes even approaching settlements. While they might play nice with sled dogs sometimes, it's not a guarantee of safety for people. So, whether you're trekking through Kodiak's forests or exploring the icy realms of the Arctic, respect for these majestic creatures and keeping your distance is the best survival strategy. After all, they're wild animals, not furry friends. Should you keep a Kodiak or polar bear as a pet? I get it, these bears are fascinating and look downright impressive, but trust me, they are not your typical cuddly pets. Kodiak and polar bears are wild giants with instincts, strength, and needs that no backyard or even a big fancy house can handle. Imagine trying to take your 1,200-pound Kodiak for a walk or feeding a polar bear that mainly survives on seals and blubber, not exactly your usual dog food. Beyond the obvious safety risks, think those massive claws and jaws. These bears require huge territories to roam, specialized diets, and environmental conditions you just can't replicate at home. Plus, they're wild animals, not trained performers. Trying to tame them is not only dangerous for you but also heartbreaking for the bear. So, if you love bears, the best way to appreciate them is from a safe distance, whether that's visiting them in protected wildlife areas or supporting conservation efforts. Leave the bear hugs to the professionals. If you love this wild bear showdown, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on epic animal battles and cool wildlife facts. Got a favorite animal matchup you want to see next? Drop your ideas in the comments below. I'm always up for a new adventure with you guys. Let's keep exploring the wild side together.